So in this video, I'll be covering the reverse shell lab. I'll explain what each command does, why we run it, and what the output means. So in a reverse shell, the victim machine initiates a connection back to the attacker. And once that connection is established, the attacker gets access to the victim's terminal. It's called a reverse shell because normally we expect that the attacker will connect to the victim. But in a real network, that will not work because most systems are protected by firewalls that block incoming connections, but they allow outbound traffic. So the attackers flip the direction. The victim connects out, and then the attacker listens. In the previous video, we looked at bind shell. In a bind shell, the victim opens a port and listens, and the attacker connects directly to it. That means the victim is waiting, the attacker initiates the connection. But the problem is that bind shells usually fail because the incoming connections are blocked by firewalls or network rules. So the simple difference between bind shell and reverse shell is that in bind shell, the victim listens and the attacker connects. But in reverse shell, the attacker listens and the victim connects. So in this lab, we have two machines. We have the attacker's machine and then we have the victim's machine, both with different IP addresses. So the goal is to set up a listener on the attacker's machine, trigger a reverse shell from the victim's machine, and then we'll confirm that the attacker receives shell access. So we'll start on the attacker's machine. The attacker's job is simply to wait for a connection. That's the job of a listener. I'll run help first to see the available commands. And we have a set of instructions. It tells us to first set up the listener on the attacker's machine and then run the reverse shell command on the victim machine. The victim will connect back to the attacker's listener. And it gives us some commands. I'm going to run this command. I'll copy and paste this here. Now, in this command, NC is Netcat. Netcat is a networking tool that sends and receives data over a network. L here means listen. V is verbose, so we get feedback. P 4444 means the port that we want to listen to. So we are basically saying open port 4444 and wait for someone to connect to us. So once we run this command, Netcat will tell us it's listening and is waiting for an incoming connection. So we can see here listening on 0.0.0.0, waiting for connection from the victim. So here the attacker does nothing. He just has to wait. Now we switch to the victim's machine. And that's where the reverse part happens. Instead of the attacker to connect to the victim is going to connect to the attacker. I'm going to run this command and paste this here on the victim's machine. So again, we have NC for Netcat, and 192.168.56.200 is the attacker's machine IP address. 4444 is the port that the attacker is listening on, and E bin bash is telling Netcat to execute the bash shell. So when we run this command, the victim will connect to the attacker, and it will give the attacker access to the victim's shell. So it says connection established to 192.168.56.200 on the port 4444. And if you pay attention here, the prompt has changed. That tells us that the connection has been established. The victim shell is attached to the connection. So whatever the attacker types will be executed on the victim's machine, and whatever the victim outputs will be sent back to the attacker. So just to confirm who we are, or to confirm that the attacker has access to the victim, I'm going to type who am I. When I run it, it says victim. That tells us that we are running as the victim on the victim's machine. So the attacker has access to the victim's machine now. I will try to run ipconfig to see if it'll work. Okay, it didn't work. But who am I tells us that we are the victim, and that's more than enough. So one important thing to understand is that the reverse shell commands are operating system specific. So on Linux we use bin bash. If you look here on Linux we use bin bash. But on Windows the shell is different. So for this command you would use this command on Windows. This would not work on Linux because cmd.exe does not exist on Linux. So in reality, no one will knowingly run this command to give access to an attacker. So reverse shells usually happen because a vulnerability is being exploited, or like you run a malware, or a malware is being run silently in the background, or a user has been tricked into running something. So this lab simplifies this so that we can focus on understanding the the mechanics of the reverse shell attack, not the entire attack chain. Reverse shells are powerful because they bypass inbound firewall restrictions and they rely on outbound connections that are usually allowed.